Alright, so, not gonna be doing Killing Floor or KF mod because I haven't played KF mod. And Killing Floor 3 is irrelevant because it's bad. So, yeah. So, just Killing Floor, just Killing Floor and Killing Floor 2. Alright. Just this and this guy. Ailing Floor. Ailing Flow. Alright, just so. So we got Horzine, right? Now they make all the things. They work for the government, or well they supply the government with some munitions. They're good at building high-tech quality goods. So robots, guns, even construction equipment, and thing like things in space like space stations and space bases and all that shit. So Horzine, everyone knows him, everyone likes him. Now, let's say that Horzine gets a new request from the government or some private military organization. What they want to do is turn normal soldiers into super soldiers. And Horzine's like, okay, we're gonna need some new people for this. So, who do they hire? They hire this dude named Kevin. Where's my Kevin? Alright. Now Kevin, super genius, really good at like altering DNA and shit. Not Kevin. Kevin accepts, of course, you know. It's probably hella good money in that and all this shit. So, Horzine hires Kevin. And Kevin starts working on making the Zeds, which I don't know if it has something to actually stand for. Probably not knowing Killing Floor. So, wait, why am I doing this, bro? I have the fucking text thing. I'm actually just stupid. So, I don't think Zed is actually an acronym for anything, but I'd like to think it is. Where's my text? Text box. Text box. Horizon. Expendable. Dumb shits. Alright. I don't want that one. Alright. Zed. Alright. ZDZ. Horizon expendable dumb shits. Or, you know, whatever. So, Kevin has a so so Kevin, you know, he's doing great, right? But Horzine, they want to speed this process up a bit. So who do they hire to work with Kevin? Volter. So Horzine also hires Volter to work with Kevin to make Zeds. So Kevin and Volter, they get along okay, but they kind of, they kind of, they kind of, they don't like each other too much. Now, Kevin has a daughter. We don't know the daughter's name, or at least I don't know, because I'm not up to date on all that or whatever. Kevin's daughter is also very smart. So we'll call her just, we'll just do D for daughter. So Kevin gets his daughter to also work for Horizon. Horizon agrees and hires her. Now, Kevin's daughter has always really, really looked up to Kevin, right? Really always wanted to impress him, but you know, him getting Horzine to hire his daughter is probably about the extent of their relationship, I guess. Extent of Kevin's acknowledging of his daughter. So his daughter particularly specializes in robotics. Now, Kevin and Volter working together, they do it. They get the Zeds to actually work. They've created pretty much like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know, like mutagen, the goop. And then on top of that, they've perfected cloning. But not so much the mutagen, which is just what I'm going to call the thing that makes the Zeds. It was supposed to make them super soldiers. So, what happens? I was just like, that's whatever, man. It's good enough, you know. We'll just throw them in the cloning vat, and then throw the juice in there, and it'll be fine. You know, we've worked long enough on this. But instead of creating super soldiers, creates monsters. So, you know, all of the Zeds and stuff, all the clots and Gorefasts. So the clots came first, is what I think. Because, I mean, they are the most human-esque, like. So the clots, um, they're really strong. I mean, their whole gimmick is basically just walking at you kind of slowly and just grabbing you. And they're good at that. They they grab you. They grab you real good. So, pretty baseline. Now, another experiment that Kevin and Volter did together was mixing spider DNA with their super soldiers. Well, they're hopefully to be super soldiers, which created the crawler, which is a little abomination of a creature, and it gave those creatures, it made them smaller, gave them extra limbs, and made it so that they can leap at people. Then probably came the bloat, which was probably an experiment done on someone who had some sort of defect, like too much, like I don't know, maybe they were obese or had like some sort of fluid buildup inside of them, like in their lungs or whatever, causing the goop, the mutation goop, to transform them into the bloat. Um, then the stalker. I don't really know about the stalker. I think that was supposed to be an experiment to try to see if they could get some sort of natural um, cloaking integrated into their super soldiers. But of course, it didn't go too well. The sirens. I think we're supposed to be, I mean, like the scream, right? Destroy projectiles and cause ear damage. Um, and then they used a woman for that because women have naturally higher voices than men, which kind of makes sense. Um, the Gorefast. I I don't know about the Gorefast. Maybe that's like whenever they were first trying to integrate some sort of robotics into their super soldiers. So they just went with something simple and tried to give them like Wolverine, like retractable blades or whatever in their hands. But it ended up just kind of not working and keeping the hand split open with the blade. Um, then the fuck the flesh pounds. No. So flesh pounds, I think, were whenever the robotics department of Horzine and Kevin and Volter started to work together. That's what made the husk and the flesh pound. And let's see, anyone else that I'm missing? I think that's all for Killing Floor 1. Now, so they have all these experiments, and they're doing them real quickly. And then something goes amiss, you could say. Something doesn't go too well. And all of their super soldiers go berserk. They lose all capability of speech. But they retain their strength, their motor capabilities, but not so much their intelligence. And it creates this epidemic throughout London where the Horzine lab is. And so, Kevin, in his infinite wisdom, decides, okay, so something didn't go too great here, obviously. Let me try it on myself. I don't want to go crazy, so Kevin and Volter decide to continue to work on the goop. And then they test it out on just some random dude. Which is, I think, where we get the Abomination. Some random dude at work, like a security guard, co-worker, whatever. Tested it out on him, and it seemed to work better than the Zeds, but was more costly. So Kevin and Volter get back together and they're like, okay, we're getting there. But Horzine is shutting down our operation, and we need to finish this quickly. So they keep working at it, right? In secrecy, separate from Horzine. So then they don't really have anyone to test it out on. So Kevin volunteers himself, which is where we get this guy. And for my reasoning as to why the Abomination isn't in Killing Floor 1 is because they kind of had to keep that way under wraps, so it wouldn't get out to anyone. But Kevin eats the juice, becomes the patriarch. You know, he's like, alright, well, you've become an abomination, but you now have a chain gun arm. You've kept your intelligence. And this transformation obviously scares the ever-loving fuck out of Volter. So Volter probably gets the hell out of there. And Kevin starts to see, or, well, the Patriarch starts to see the Zeds in a new light. He sees them as his children instead of a project he wants to, you know, protect them and stuff. So his daughter, right, Kevin's daughter, at this point, everything's gone to shit. The Zeds are running rampant throughout London and the UK in general. And the Horzine labs are being taken over. And so Horzine's like, okay, we need to stop this now. So they gather up all the resources they can. And this is where you come in. You're a bunch of essentially mercenaries who either worked for or were hired by Horzine to deal with the Zeds. And so Yeah, that's where the player comes in to deal with the Zeds, because they were hired by Horsine. Now, it's Kevin's job to try and kill you as you're trying to directly stop him from, I guess, taking over the world? I don't really know now. Either way, he's pissed. And fighting Horsine. So, fighting you guys, he probably gets his ass beat, you know. Horsine's division is too good. The mercenaries are, they're brute forcing it, and they're winning. So Kevin decides, okay, enough is enough, and manages to recruit Volter onto his team. Gets him to combine his own personal exosuit that he's been working on into his own mutation, giving us Dr. Hans Volter. There he is. And the Patriarch's like, okay, all these guys, they've got better equipment and everything. I myself, I need an upgrade. So, in eating more of the goop and with more robotics, becomes the Patriarch we know from Killing Floor 2. So, there he is. Too much back, he's still got his little grabby claw. His chain gun's got more upgrades. Got a robot leg now. But I think in the process of this, it fucks up some of his intelligence a bit. So he's traded intelligence for physical strength and upgrades, making him more cocky, but not completely idiotic. So Kevin's daughter, the Patriarch's daughter, during all of this, been working in the robotics lab. And Kevin, now having gone way off the rails, gets her with the goop too. But she doesn't mutate in the same way as these guys did. Her body becomes weak and fragile, but she retains an immense amount of her original knowledge, original, intelligence. So, out of disdain for her neglectful father and wanting to prove herself to him, she builds herself a body and fuses with it. Wow, that is a really big picture, giving us the matriarch. Why does she? Yeah, okay. I don't know if that picture is correct or whatever, but there it is. Good enough. She is the most technologically advanced, has the most different weapons, and after, okay, so whenever she first got gooped, right, when she was weak and fragile, these two doofuses decided, okay, well, she's not doing anything. Let's just kick her out. And so they did. They just left her to her own devices, and then she created her own body. But Horzine and in turn you have also been working on things behind the scenes. They've developed multiple different weapons and have even been administering special drugs to their mercenaries, making them faster, able to be more accurate, and I mean they were already administering drugs before, which is what I think Zed time is did some sort of drug taking effect that makes the player able to react to Zeds faster, but it only kicks in every once in a while. So it's okay, wait. Zed time could also be a bit of the goop mixed in with human DNA to make you stronger, giving you that ability, but there wasn't enough in it to fully turn you into a Zed. That might be what Zed time is. It's either that or it's just straight up, performance enhancing drugs. Either way, Horzine, either through robotics or drugs, have been enhancing their mercenaries to fight back the Zeds better. And so, Hans and Volter put their brains together, and they're like, alright, we need better people. Which is where the variants of Zeds come in. So we got the Gore Fiend, who is basically a Gore Fast, but instead of one blade, there's two. Two blades. Then there's all the versions of the Clots. So like the Alpha Clot, the Rioters that are able to buff, like the Rioters that are able to buff the other Clots, then the Alpha Clots and the other whatevers that are meant for like more frontline attacks and grabbing. Quarter pounds, which are meant for, being essentially a more spammable version of the Flesh Pound, because they are less expensive. Now, where have Kevin and Volter in their sort of rivalry, sort of companionship been getting all of their resources? I'm guessing Horzine. Because either from looting labs, because they have control over the original cloning labs, and Hans probably has enough intelligence to continue to make more cloning vats, while Kevin has more brute strength to keep as the commander for the rest of the Zeds. Now the Abomination. So they had to keep this guy locked away after because he was the first test. But Killing Floor 2, these guys are already crazy. They're like, alright, this dude, let's let him out. Let's have him be our big bad guy. So what do? They clone him. And then they send him out, and he does good on the field. He does work. But Horzine's mercenaries also do work, and they beat this guy's ass sometimes. and sometimes he beats their ass. So they're like, alright, alright, alright. We can clone the big guys. We're the big guys. So what do? They clone themselves. With clones of themselves, they send them out to the battlefield. And yeah, send them out to the battlefield. They do work, but sometimes Horzine beats them back. Now the matriarch, she is on a hunt to get through to Kevin. Still, even though she's been like goopified, she remained most of her brain. You know, big, big, big brain. You know, so Kevin and Volter decide, all right, we'll take her in, but not as a companion, just as a clone to throw at Horzine mercenaries to, you know, over and over and over, probably with the promise of like having her think that if she does this, that it'll impress her father. And she decides that, okay, sometimes I need some help on the battlefield. And then taking Horzine's equipment, re-engineers their robots and reactivates them into the Edars, which are, the robots and shit. And that's like why she has primary control over the programming. That's why they don't really attack the other Zeds, and that's why she calls them in. I don't really know how to end this. That's what I think the lore of Grilling Floor 2 is. I've actually had a big cookout. That's really big. Killing lore. There we go. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, that's what I think is going on in Killing Floor, and Killing Floor 2. I'm probably wrong, but it's part of learning, man. Thanks for watching my stupid ramblings. You know, how it is. I don't. Yeah, okay. All right, turn the camera off. Stop this now.